time to talk about the fences. It's time to discuss operations and expenses. It's time, it's really time to elevate small businesses. It's time for Joe to drop his knowledge, it's relentless. This rhyme of mine is getting a bit ridiculous. So here we go, we're live with Joe. Enjoy the show.
What is up, Fence fam? So good to be back with you guys live from the Expert Professional Wood Care Studios. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to tune in. Whether you're listening on the podcast, if you are listening on the podcast, you're listening to a recorded version of a live conversation, or you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching us. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to stop in and talk about fence. If you guys read the description, you know exactly who we're going to talk to. Let's bring them up now. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good morning.
How's everybody? Well,
Good.
guys, I brought you guys on. We wanted to talk, basically do a recap. We were talking about this in kind of a private text about, kind of recapping the show. We said, well, let's just do a live Q&A with everyone out there in Fence Fam land and go over our experiences so that if someone at home wasn't able to make it, hopefully we can try to fill them in.
If they missed, dude, they missed.
It was a huge miss.
As Dan Wheeler would say, it was a banger.
Bangers and mash, baby. Bangers and mash.
It was. I tell you, let's say hi to a few people and then we'll jump into it, because I know once we get ripping on this, we won't come up for air for a while. What is up, Justin? Good morning, all. Excited to hear from the experts. Thank you, Justin. We will see you like a week and a half.
Oh,
yeah. No. Yeah. So like 4 days.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
A week and a half, 4 days. It all blends together.
Justin's looking properly jocked too.
Right?
Just
Look at
throw
that.
there.
I'm pretty sure that's an actual photo.
It is.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yes,
I heard that he drinks a cup of Expert Scene Seal every day, Nathan. That's how he gets it. Like that.
Ooh.
Part of his workout regimen.
And from that color, it looks pecan to me. What do you say, John?
Pecan.
Probably.
Or pecan, whatever. If you're American, pecan, right?
Pecan.
Oh, what are you going to say, Nathan? Huh?
Unless it's the pie, and then it's pecan pie.
Pecan.
For whatever
Good
reason.
Lord.
Tony Thornton, good morning, buddy. Appreciate you tuning in. We know this guy, Roger Bentoncourt. Hello, Roger. Good morning, Joe, Tony, and the rest of the Fence fam. Good morning. Jessica Blevins joining us from Flat Rock, Alabama. Good morning, Jessica. How are you? Roger's in here as always, reminding us to hit the affirmations. So now, if you're on Facebook, so the likes, is this going to do it? Nope, not going to do it. We're all on like we're doing like a, I don't know, we're a Zoom call.
Oh, let's go.
Nathan's got the magic button over there.
No,
Anyway,
maybe this one.
guys, if you're watching, you can hit the like button, but if you hold it and you do like the love or it actually doesn't matter what you do after that. Those are counted as engagement. But Facebook a while ago, Nathan's got this figured out. Anyway, Facebook told us a while ago that the thumbs up, they don't count that for engagement anymore because it's too easy to click it. So if you're going to click something, let's see who this Benji. Thank you, Benji, for the heart. Appreciate it. We know that guy. We're actually going to see him in a few days as well. Protecting Your Radius podcast. Well, this is a conundrum. I'm here to see myself. The conundrum is complete.
Wanted to see that new sign too.
That is sharp. That is very sharp.
I like your sign, Joe, and your guitar.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, shout out AFA on these. Tracy Henry. Hey, hello, Tracy. Hi, Joe. Watching the Q&A from Idaho in the Rocky Mountain chapter. Appreciate having you guys. All right, here's a reminder. If you're on Facebook and you haven't clicked the StreamYard URL, we'll drop that in the comments below. But go ahead and do that so we know who it is. But all the same, what is up? Stevie Boy, what is going on, Stevie Boy? Good afternoon, Joe and the Fence fam. See, it's afternoon because Stevie Boy is coming to us from across the pond. Appreciate you tuning in. I think we know this, gentlemen. The one, the only Randy Ward. Good morning, guys. Huge shout out to Randy, and we'll probably get into this again, but Randy was the chairman for FenceTech 2024. Job well done. I think that's the overarching message here. Yeah, great job, Randy. It was phenomenal. There he is. Benji says, "What's up, fellas? His signs are looking sharp." Agreed. All right, here we go. If you're watching this on Facebook, go ahead and click that StreamYard.com/Facebook link to give them permission to post your name and thumbnail. Roger wants to know, when is Matt going to play the... so that orange get fiddle? I've never heard it called that. He is. We talked about, so Matt mounted this. So Matt, if you're watching, Matt usually watches this. Matt, thank you for mounting this yesterday. We had a first Friday where basically the whole day is spent on just company improvement type stuff. So that was one of the things that got done. Shout out, Matt. But that being said, Matt, we have had that conversation about Matt doing the intro with the guitar. Probably not live. It's probably, he's like, have you heard that? That's not a one take type situation. Like, that's fair. Randy Ward, 7,519 registered attendees.
Wow.
Dude.
We're gonna dive into that here in a second, but that is the 30,000 foot view and let's put this in proper context. Last year, so FenceTech 2023, the number was plus or minus 4,500 was kind of the number I'd heard thrown around.
Yep.
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive show. So Tracy's got a great question. Watching on LinkedIn, what's the best forum to watch from? Really, Tracy? LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, they're all we're broadcasting through a app called StreamYard, and it pushes out to all of them simultaneously. It also collects all of the questions, as is with yours, and brings them all into one place. Really, wherever you're most comfortable watching is the best place, honestly. Well, speaking of somebody we're not, so there was one more person that was supposed to be here today, but then Mardi Gras.
Too much Mardi Gras.
My Fence Life podcast, Dan 0, Mardi Gras 1. That's fair. That's fair.
That's awesome.
We all got a text this morning. We're on a group text thing, and we got a text this morning. He's like, guys, I'm trying to talk, and all I can do is whisper. He's like, too much yelling at Mardi Gras floats.
Nathan, do like a thumbs down or something.
Yeah, we got to give that a... How do you...
No. Do I have to do two hands?
No. I don't know.
Am I not?
Great content.
He's man hands, Nathan.
Yeah, this is real. I mean, I can do this.
You can, yeah.
Let's go. Sorry. Yeah, if you're listening to this podcast later, it's just phenomenal. Like, what are they doing?
So, yeah, to bring you podcast listeners in on what we're doing, StreamYard has this. And actually, it's not only a StreamYard thing. So I was on a Google Meets yesterday. Same exact thing. And it's like literally all of them. Like the double thumbs up for the, for either it'll do fireworks or confetti and balloons or whatever. Same exact thing on Google Meets that it's doing right now on StreamYard. So, anyway.
I don't know what Nathan's doing.
That's what Nathan's trying to figure out.
Yeah, there's
like one of those sign language
gestures.
hacks that are like.
There's one that did,
right?
when you do peace signs.
There.
All right, I'm done.
All right,
it only works for Nathan. It only works for Nathan. Greg Eubank says, "What's up, fellas? Love this stuff." Greg, appreciate you joining us. Check out that logo Craig's got. I like it a lot. He posted that to some of the Facebook groups several weeks ago, and man, how cool!
He was on the fence behind the live at. I put him dead center, like there in the middle, because that is a sweet sign.
Was that reflective?
Yes.
Come on, Craig! You're making us all look bad.
Good stuff. That's really good stuff. Tracy says it was the best FenceTech.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to agree. Nathan, you've probably been to the most of them out of us here today. What do you think?
I know that Chris, Tracy's husband, drug me down to Takova's, and I bought some new boots, and so did Randy Ward, and so did Donnie Lockhart from our group. I'm gonna tell you guys, those Tacovas that Chris talked us into are some very, very nice boots. But the show was it was incredible. I mean, having that many people there in one spot. Nashville is such a unique place. I was talking with some of our other crew members and team mates that came down to Nashville. And we were all talking about just the vibe and the feel. And Broadway is a place that's unlike any other place in the United States. Like there's so many different places where, sorry, I'm hearing a little echo there. There's so many different places that have similar feels, but Nashville downtown is very, very unique. I've never been to any other place like it in a small confined space, but there's so much room. There's so much, and the live music and all these other things everyone knows Nashville to be for. It just creates this ambiance of this really cool, I don't know, like party vibe, but at the same time, you can still do what a lot of us did and get business done and just grow relationships by having a good time, having fun, and partying out to great music everywhere. Live music. I mean, good Lord, it's all over the place.
It didn't matter where you ended up. But one night we ended up at a place called the Redneck Riviera. I was like, this kind of sounds like my type of place. Let's see what this place is about. And yeah, just a guy in there getting it. I mean, it was incredible live music, no matter where you are, including on the show floor. So where our booth was at FenceTech, the group area was behind us, and they had a rotation of live performers there on that stage as well. And so while we were doing the interviews, you could kind of hear them playing, and it was really good, very good. All right, Shane Cat. Okay, so Shane's got the link clicked. Now we're active. What's up, boys? Hello, Shane. How are you, sir? Seth is with us as well. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Seth. Roger says, congratulations to FenceTech and all the attendees. Great numbers. I agree. I mean, we've said this, I don't know how many times, but talk about a big win. It was a huge win. I mean, we've talked about attendees. I mean, the most people I've seen in one spot, if not ever, in an incredibly long time. Right. So, and the spot was huge. So the venue itself was something like 100,000 square foot. The show floor was 80,000 of that because you had to have a little room on the ends. 80,000 square foot of booth space that was packed to the gills with vendors. But now listen, that's a big space, right? So sometimes if you were to put 4,500 people in that space, it wouldn't have felt full just because everyone's spread out. You'd probably find little pockets. Guys, I'm telling you, I remember distinctly sitting there doing interviews, looking around going, this place is packed, shoulder to shoulder with people wandering, and it is a huge room to try to fill, too.
Yeah.
Huge success. I always think of that movie line, great success. It was a great success. Tracy says And all I got was a koozie, but he did buy himself boots for a few weeks before we left. So, all right, that works out. Jessica said it was her first FenceTech and she loved it. Jessica's so happy you enjoyed it. And that's, guys, that's what I try to tell people that haven't been before that say, why should I go? We don't have enough time to sit down for me to tell you all of the reasons you should go. I mean, networking is probably number one, both with vendors, but also with, other fence folks, education. So that was something I was kind of interested to see because, listen, 8 a.m. in Nashville after we were talking about all the great live music down Broadway, I was curious to see how many people made it to the 8 a.m. packed. Yeah. And it was just like what we saw in Oklahoma City the year before. A lot of rooms I kind of peeked, several rooms I sat in on, full. Several rooms I peeked in on, full, standing room only. There were people lining the walls and standing in the back. Massive success. And then, just being around in that environment and picking up just tidbits, golden nuggets. So I can't tell you how often I come back with just little nuggets I get from casual conversations with people passing by.
Yeah. And I think this year on the education side, it was better than I've ever seen it be, because I know a lot in the past, you know, we would have 400 or 500 people sign up for the education, and I would go to that just to get my continuing education credits for all the certifications that I have through IDEA and through ACI, the AFA group. But like, I saw this time there was so much really good quality things coming back, where people were just packed in these rooms and really engaged, and the speakers and presenters this time were better than I've ever seen. And I remember there's classes that I went to years ago. Like I went to a class with Mark Olson, I think Luke and Veronica 3 or 4 years ago, and it was talking about how do you build a budget. And I sat through that thing and I was just like blown away, going, oh my gosh, these guys are like giving me their secrets, you know?
Yeah.
And to go through some of the classes this year and to hear like the Robert Whitaker's talk and the Tony Thornton's talk, and they're going into things that you'd never heard them talk about on any of our podcasts, never read in one of their books, but they're like going the next step. And I even tried to do that in my class this year, you know, taking what did we start building on last year? How do we propel that forward? Like, what's something else I could teach people that's of pure value? And I got great feedback from my class. You know, people are going like, I've never had formal sales training. And I go, right? Like, that's a pretty important thing. If you're actually selling people, like, it would be nice to know, how do you actually close someone?
Right.
And there is an art to that, right? Like, but if we're not talking about these things, if we're not engaging in doing all that stuff, you know, Wheeler, that's what I think about you. You know, you talk about this all the time on your show, buddy, you know, the networking side of it and that learning side and stuff. I'd be interested to hear what you said, because I feel like, Dan, you were more engaged in this one than you've ever been before.
You know, I see in the comments, Todd is on there. Todd Skolsky with Perfection Fence. We had a small conversation, dude, before the show started, and like that right there, because he talked about selling. He could teach a 4-hour class. Now he won't admit it. You know, it'd be hard to get him to do it, but he just has it. You know, he's just a premier company, and I look up to him. I know a lot of others do, but that one conversation for 20 minutes, 15 minutes before FenceTech, the doors open, was worth my trip there. And I took so much out of it, because I feel like I'm a premier company. But how do you sell yourself as a premier company, right? You have to, and he told me you have to sell something, right? It's not just a fence, and it's education, and it's how do you get better at educating customers, right? You go see Nathan Downs talk about selling, and it's just, I don't want to say it's not rocket science, but I think the AFA laid out a blueprint to be successful for 2024 if you attended FenceTech.
But Joe, to pile on to what Dan's saying there, I remember 10 years ago when I went to my first FenceTech, that my thought of what the fence industry was what my market was, right? Yeah. So like, I knew the olds in the group, you know, that had all the success because they've been around for 50, 60, 70 years. And then I knew the new guys. And so I thought that the fence world was this small bubble in the Tulsa, you know, metropolitan area.
Sure.
And then I go to FenceTech and like, oh, we are small potatoes. Like, I thought I was somebody special. And then no one knows who I am. No one. And like I said, I was walking around going, you know, talking to these people, you know, and then of course that's where I started years ago, you know, how much revenue does your company do? You know, and they're like, well, we don't really talk about it much, like 20 to 30. I'm like, is that million? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what? Oh my God. And I'm sitting there going, oh man, we suck, you know, but in a good way, right? Like in a way that would challenge us as a group to be like, listen, we can walk around here and act like we are just God of fence, but there are people out there that are 9-figure companies that we will never catch. Right. But and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. But just to have that vision planted in your head to be like, holy crap, this thing can be, you know, all these guys, you know, the AFA, the FWA, and NAFCA, all these groups talk about how big the industry is. But I think it's these events, when you get to these high profile premium events that cost money to go to, that, you know, it's an investment of your personal money, your company's money. But then you get there and you're like, oh crap, we need to let's step up the game, boys.
Right.
A perfect example is, did you guys see Rio Grande Fence there on Friday? They brought 2 charter buses, all their team members, they shut down, and they have that video of them all coming up the escalators, and it's just a sea of red. It's just and they're
Awesome.
all wearing the same shirt. Dude, that's what I chase. Like that's
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like I could replace that Rio Grande logo with River City Fence right there.
Right. Right.
So easy, but that's who I chase. That's those
Yep.
big. And I'm like, man, like one day I'll be Rio Grande.
Well, it's, I had that realization. It was last year, year before. I was sitting at a table and just chatting about fence. And so what's funny is, no one really asks the revenue number anymore because people have figured out the polite way to ask that is, so how many crews you guys running?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you like, all right, carry the 2. No. 32, you say. I think I'm at the wrong table. Is there a kids table around here I can go sit at?
Exactly. Table. Yeah, this is
Exactly.
not my style.
But that's the point is, up until that point, we're all the same, right? We're all in the fence industry. We're all fencing professionals. We had just a great conversation leading up to that before I do, and we had a great conversation after. But the point is, I would have never known, right, that this person leads a company of that size. Well, and I mean, yeah, there's some really big fish that swim in that pond, but you would never know it, right?
Right.
And that's the best part is, yeah, you would never know it until you talk to somebody, and then, eyes as wide as saucers, like, good grief.
And I think you guys get that, Joe, Dan, you guys get that in your day-to-day lives. I talked about this a couple months ago, but I still have friends from a long time ago that are like, you're still doing fence? Like, you're a fence guy? I still don't understand this, because they know me and what I had done when we were younger, right? And I'm sitting there going, yeah. And they'll check out the Bronco and they're like, is the fence thing working out? I go, it's doing okay. We're doing all right.
Yeah.
And that's the fun thing about trades, right? Is that we do the right things for long enough. It's always going to pay off, because it's the backbone of America, is who we are as a country. Like, really, like we build things. Like, that's what America should be and is about. Now there's white collar side, there's blue collar side, all that stuff. But like, that's what America is. We build things, we make things happen. And, and even across the pond, they build things too. So don't forget about that.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's one of the great things about our trade, and a lot of trades similar to ours, I suppose. But to your point, Nathan, you do see a mixture of blue collar and white collar. You get these companies that have a C-suite of executives that manage it, all the way down to someone that is doing it evenings and weekends on the side until they can step in at full time, or had 2 conversations with folks this year that were thinking about getting into it, but they were from that market. So that's another shout out to AFA, is making it free for locals on Friday, because that's where I talked to these 2 people where they're thinking about getting into it. They were from the area. They weren't really sure. So they wanted to come to the show just to see what it was about.
Jeez.
If they didn't leave that show ready to go head first, dude, I can see if they got a hold, man.
It's not for them.
Exactly.
It's not for them. Yeah. But I thought that was great foresight on the AFA, opening it up for free to everyone, and I don't know that they were checking people's IDs to see if they were local, but that was the point, is that, hey, if you're in this market, if you can get here on Friday, come on in. Because you guys know, and we've talked about this, the last day of a show, whether it's AFA, a local home show, whatever, the last day is the vendor show. Like, it's just the business to business. Hey, let me see what you got that I'm looking for, or let me introduce myself. You do landscaping, I do fence. We should probably know each other, sort of thing. It's the vendor show at the last day. FenceTech did not feel like a vendor show on Friday. Mm-hmm. It felt like just an extension of the day before. So shout out AFA. Like I said, if I talk to these 2 people, there's definitely more people that had that. Hey, I'm thinking about getting into it, or I'm tiptoeing into it, but I wanted to get here. I can't wait to see what those people do. I mean, think about that being your starting point.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Unreal. Ryan says, sad I missed it. Ryan, we will see you next year. So 2025 is going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah. Looking forward to that. We all had some conversations with people, vendors that are going to be there, and they're already making plans. Like, hey, if we were to do this, would you guys be interested? Or if we did that, and like, yeah, yes, absolutely would. Yeah, I'm in. So if you didn't make 2024, you need to put on your calendar 2025. It's going to be late February I want to say the last week of February 2025. Check me on that. Check the dates, but it's going to be a month later in 2025. So here's Todd. You were talking about Todd earlier. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're getting back to reality after being in Nashville. It's like, when you watch, I don't know, when we were kids and we watched comics, you got this airplane going warp speed and then it slows down to 0 and you just like, that's what my Monday felt like. It was just like back to reality. You get yanked back, and everyone's like, "Hey, glad you're gone, but glad you're back, but while you're gone."
Yeah, exactly. The piling on is occurring. I looked at my desk and I said, all my piles of papers that I already have, and then right in the middle, my girls just spread everything out, and they had like these lists, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm never leaving again.
That's real. That is real. But yeah, settling back into reality for sure. Let's see. Robert Feeney. I think this might be a gentleman I know. Is this Bob Feeney that I know from Sertoma? Building a pool and have a 5-foot neighbor-friendly fence. What do you suggest to raise the height 2 feet for more privacy? So, I mean, this is going to be a wood fence, neighbor-friendly. So it depends what part of the country you're in on what everyone's going to call this fence. I've seen shadow box be called neighbor-friendly, which is pickets on either side of the structure. So Dan's got a picture of a privacy fence behind him. So shadow box would be those pickets on both sides, overlapped a little bit. But also, guys, you might have seen this as well, but there's some areas where it'll be a privacy fence like what Dan has behind him, except for the panels are flipped every other panel. Mm-hmm. Or you'll have 2 panels and 2 panels, that sort of thing. But everywhere I've seen neighbor-friendly refers to a wooden fence. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, how do you raise a fence 2 feet? There's no post extenders for a wood fence that I've seen.
That's what I was going to say. What kind of post do you have? You got to start there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what if you have a 4x4 or 4x6 wood post? What are you going to do?
You don't want to know.
I know, right? Yeah. No, I do want to know, Dan. Go ahead. Tell us. How does
I would suggest yanking them and starting over, but that's just me.
Yep.
And then if you got steel, there's ways around that too, but you start getting labor and intensive on that too.
So I'll throw out something. Some of us that aren't 40 years into this, like you, Dan, that have to take every job we get, we have done things where we would take 2x4s, scab them on the sides, right?
Kind of like a splint.
and then stand that up. You could also do that if they had steel posts. There's a way. Very similar to the King Plus style. You could do something along that lines, but by scabbing 2x4s or some other type of larger dimensional lumber up, that would be a way to do it. And then just make sure it's finished on both sides. So
it's privacy like this, you could probably set another post in between. You know what I'm saying? And maybe every other, if you could span.
Yeah.
So there's probably ways around it.
4x4s are tough to extend.
Oh, yeah, I would go on the like I mentioned, doing it depends, but I would do a 2x4 scabbed.
Now, this is what I'll say too. So you're going to want to check your local regulations on if 7 foot's even allowed. So here in Springfield Metro, in the Springfield Metro area, you can't go above 6 foot 0 inches. So do people build 8-foot fences in town? Sure, but not people that don't want the rest of their permits to get screwed up. So check local ordinances on if 7 foot's allowed. I mean, I agree with both, right? I agree with Dan that the way, I don't want to say proper, but the proper way to do it would be to yank the post and set new. That's the most foolproof idea. But you absolutely could put splints and raise it up with the understanding, one, it's not going to look great, like from the inside or from whichever side the structure's on. Not going to be fantastic. And two, it's not going to be as structurally sound, right?
Right.
But if you go
Right.
into it knowing both of those things and the cost of pulling the post and replacing isn't an option, it could work.
Yeah.
It could work. All right, let me scroll back up. We're still getting caught up here.
Hey, as you're doing that, if you have 4x4 wood posts, here's my suggestion: just rip them out.
Yeah, so switch to steel.
I'm
Switch to steel.
sorry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Well-
granted, like I said, but I'm also coming from, like, you guys have had companies that have been around for decades, and we're a new company, so we do have to do things like that I don't want to do. But we did one where we scabbed it, like I said, and extended it up, and I mean, we made great money on it. And I just put, there is no warranty. We ain't ever coming back. You want us to come back? It's going to cost you a couple $100 just to come on site to even look at it, and they understood what they were getting into. So it's good.
Absolutely. And if it were round steel posts, we've done plenty of those where it depends on the size of the post, but a lot of times you can have an interior sleeve welded onto a stub, 2 foot or whatnot, slide it in your line post. You can weld that, put a band over it. No one ever knows. And it is structurally sound. The weld will be the strongest part of that post, right? So the weld should fail after the original material it's welding together. And the interior sleeve gives it support too. Steel posts are the way for sure. And I had this conversation with some of our clients talking about how steel posts are more expensive. And one of them didn't come out and say it, but they're like, well, you're trying to sell me steel posts because they're more expensive. And I thought about that for a second. I said, well, here's the thing. If I was only in this for money, that's the only reason I'm going to build this, I would only ever sell you wood post, period. Because that's job security for me and for the following generations. Like, you put in a wood post, I don't care how great it is. The treatment is not the same today as it was 30 years ago. It's probably a 10-year product, 10, 12, 15-year product. So if I were only in this for the money, I would only ever put in wood posts knowing I got to crack at replacing this thing in 10, 12, 15 years. With steel posts, we're done. I mean, as long as a tornado, hurricane, et cetera, doesn't come through and no one drives through it with a vehicle. If we're only talking about failure of the fence just due to elements, you put in a steel post and you're done. I don't get another chance at resetting that or replacing that. My son doesn't get a chance at replacing that or resetting that. So,
and I think, Joe, that is such a wise thing to be able to tell a client or a potential client, because I learned when I was 18 years old, I learned from a buddy that had a muffler shop. We were working on, a lot of people know I did race cars and stuff when I was a kid, and we'd be working on all of our cars, and he'd tell us to bring our own pipe for our exhaust systems. I always thought that was weird. Well, then one day I saw he was doing an exhaust system. I was like, dude, your tubing is like paper thin. He goes, yeah, it's job security. And I'm going, what are you talking about? He said, well, the chances that this thing blows, that muffler blows out, that pipe blows out in a couple of years is really high, because he said, look at all my clients. They ain't taking care of their cars, but they don't care if they have a blown out muffler or something. They'll take $200 and come back. And I was like shocked at first, but then I realized, oh, this must be business, but there are business models where that works. And again, going to things like FenceTech, going to these big events where you hear people talk about it. And what you just said, Joe, is so wise, because the immediate thing, just like we found out, we had some big storms roll through Oklahoma in June this year. They hit you guys too, buddy. Yeah. And when those storms came over the whole heartland of America, everybody I saw told me about how much, oh man, you got to be loving this. You're making a killing. It cost me $8,000. I literally lost $8,000 because my company is not set up for the storm.
Yeah.
But everyone thought we were, and everybody thought we were making so much money that but I didn't know, man. I never took the time to really analyze it and understand. Like, I went out and did 180 bids. I only closed a couple jobs because we weren't doing the things that the customers were expecting my buddy's muffler shop. Right. Like, they were expecting the Band-Aid, the cheap, like, hey, give me an insurance price, but give it what? Like, this is a thing. And I'm like, oh, the roofers do it all the time. Oh, well, obviously they also have $90,000 trucks rolling around town wrapped, and you're like, all right, I'm like, should I wrap the Bronco? I mean, like, I don't know what's happening here. And then, like I said, a month later, I'm sitting there going, everybody at church or at a grocery store tells me how much money I made off this storm. Oh, you must love it. And I'm like, really? And like I said, no, I don't. But we have a plan. Next storm comes. I now have a plan to circumvent that. And we either ain't going to waste time or we're going to recoup some of these costs instead of doing what we did last time.
Yep. Well, that's, we've got a minimum to come out and do work, right? So, and everyone's different. When we calculated our cost and all that, we settled on $750 minimum to send 3 guys, a truck, trailer, and a piece of equipment. I absolutely understand that replacing one post is not worth. They're like, what do you mean? These things cost like $12 at Lowe's. Like, I get it. But yeah, you're right. The post is the least expensive part of this whole thing. I got to dig that up. It's broken because the storm you're talking about there's a lot of wind. Yep. So it's broken. So we got to get that out of here somehow. And then we got finish the hole how we would want it finished. We have to reset it. We have to come back. There's a lot going on here. And you're right. If you're not set up for repairs, which is why our minimum's so high, because we're not. I don't have 2 or 3 crews that are lean, mean repair machines. If you have that, it's just a different model. It really is. But no, you're right. People just assume, well, you're a fence company. You love these storms. Absolutely not. I do not. I had a schedule set a month ago of what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And now I've got to try to figure all this stuff out, and if we never had another storm, I wouldn't mind that a bit.
Amen.
I always say, I wish every market had that one guy in a truck and a trailer. That's all they did were those, because I could send them so much work.
Yes.
Like
yes.
Said, the time you put a 1-ton truck, trailer, equipment, 3 guys down the road, plus a locate, you still have office admin work. And then what if it's landscaped? Now that fence has been there 10 years, so now it's heavily landscaped. There's fences that you can't access it. It's all by hand. We went through the ratio, that lane-based hurricane in 2020. Dude, like never again. Never, ever again do I want to see something like that, ever.
We've had a few guys come through where, because there's some local guys that they'll come in and we'll just talk shop, and I'll try to give advice as much as I can. And that's what I've told them. I was like, listen, stay exactly where you are, because they were set up. It was them and a helper. They would do the smaller jobs and the repair jobs. And I had that same thing. Dan. I was like, we will feed you so much work and straight to you. I don't even need to be a part of it. I need a referral partner to where I say, call so-and-so. They're the people that can do this in a great way. And it works well for about a season. They're like, yeah, this is great. We're doing all this. And then like, but what about these bigger jobs? I only want to do like, oh, you really don't.
I want to do yard jobs now. Okay. Yeah.
But it's like, listen, I
get it.
Yeah, I get it. We're on that side of it, but I almost wish we only did repair work. Like when you're looking at margins,
right?
The margins on repair work are great if you can run lean, and if you can. There's a lot of stipulations to this, but if you can make it work for your business, the margins are fantastic because there's usually no one doing them.
Oh, right.
Absolutely. We get tornadoes, we get tornadoes through the area and stuff. And I remember 6 years ago, I took one of my crews and said, hey, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to isolate the rest of everything I'm doing on the commercial side and everything. And I'm going to take one crew, go through this one area of town where the tornado hit and go house to house. I said, I just wanted to see if I could do it. We generated $45,000 in revenue. And I think our total cost on everything was like 16 grand, 17 grand in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, dumb money. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, could we, what if I could teach someone else to do this? And then, but then, like I said, it was so isolated. I just wanted to see if I could do it. And then the next time it came, I was like, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. I don't have the time or anything. Or the crew,
or the crew. That's the thing is, I think about like we've got 3 crews. We're not set up. But if we had the horses to do this, set up in at least areas, maybe not neighborhoods, but zones, right?
Zones.
So say, hey, you are south, you are east, you are west, you are north, you're Republic, you are Willard, and then put someone out in front of them selling fence. Hey, you're the Republic sales guy right now. And it's just not, hey, Mr. and Miss Smith, appreciate you opening the door, not slamming it in my face. Hey, I just want to let you know we're a fence company. We repair fence, and I have a crew in this area that all they're doing right now is fixing fences just like yours. Would it make sense if we looked at your fence?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me 3 minutes. I'll have you a number back up here. And then I even had like NCR forms. I mean, I was old school.
Yeah.
I found the old stack of them at the company, and I was like, here, I'm going to go out there with a clipboard. And I was just writing them up and like handing them to the people. Would be like, where do I sign? Right there. And done. And then I'm turning around and running down the street. I'd give them 6 more. They're like, are you serious? I'm like, dude, this is so easy. I'm like, I was like, just keep following me. And then, so we were just loading concrete and 4x4s and pickets on the trailer over and over and over. And I'm like, it was easy, but you gotta have the horses to do it. And then you got to have the person ahead of that, whether it's you or a salesperson that understands like how to quantify the work, make sure the guys are being taken care of. I used a subcontractor. Everyone knows I use subs. Mm-hmm. So it was very easy for me to negotiate that with the guys. I'm like, listen, all you're going to have to do is walk behind me. Yeah. And I'm going to give you X dollars per post. And I will find every freaking broken post known to man. And they're like, okay. And then when I did it, they were like, oh, man. So they're out there with their tools, popping these, footers out, getting them in. I mean, it's because they're in the same boat as me. Dude, the faster we can do this, we're going to make a killing. And like I said, for them, over a 2-week span, the amount of money that they're like, that's some great money. I'm like, yeah.
Because
they
like
weren't $2,000 a day or something stupid. I mean, it was dumb. Like, this is great. We love it. Yeah. I bet you do.
They had the cost of fuel to get to the neighborhood, and then they got to sit in that neighborhood and just they weren't
jamming
driving
out.
Yeah, they weren't driving all over creation going from one job. It made sense. That makes sense across the board.
Or having to pick up materials from a supplier, having to go to our own yard and stop and go, no. Load up the trailer. We know what we need, what's typical, and then we just do it. And the repairs too, which was the greatest part about it, because you're sitting there thinking like nobody really cares. Like they want it done right, but they really don't care what it looks like. So if I had a 3.5-inch picket and they had full force, the homeowner's like, I don't freaking care. Take the 1x6 on your truck and rip it down and okay. So the guys would just do it in 2 seconds, rip it and be done.
Right? Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And that's so anyway, for those of you watching, be that company, because the margins on that are phenomenal. Yeah, please. Absolutely. It's because all of the guys, we don't have anyone to refer to right now, because most of the people we were referring to stepped up into, they got new trucks, new trailers, new equipment. They're like, well, now I can't afford to. Like, I know this is what we were talking about was that. And then, I had this conversation with one of these guys is he's like, man, I'm so busy and doesn't feel like I'm making any more money. Like, that's because you aren't.
Right.
And you made the same money back then that you're making now. But anyway, so if you take one thing away, if you're thinking about getting into the fence business, be that person. Be the fix it repair company, and you will find 2, 3, 4 fence companies in your area that would love to refer work to you.
Especially the huge companies. The bigger the company, the more they don't want to mess with it. Very typically. Now, some of them may actually have a repair crew, but I would bet if you spent a couple hours on a Friday afternoon or Friday morning or something like that, drove around town and went to all the biggest fence companies in your area and started talking to them, you would be shocked at how many of them don't have a plan. And they're like you, Joe, like you go, man, I've been looking for somebody to refer these to. And I'm sending them to my competitor half the time, hoping they'll waste their time. And then they're like, wait, what'd you say? I'm like, I don't do that
wait a
often.
Yeah. And they're like, that's weird because we sent them to you.
To you. Yeah, exactly. I feel like we're sending them back and forth because we are.
That's what's happening. Big game around robin.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so bring this back around to FenceTech. Shane Catton said, I took 4 first-timers. They were blown away. Talk about setting the bar. AFA, great work. Absolutely agreed. And Craig said, I didn't even get to see all the booths. Needed another day. That's real.
Yeah,
that is
I
real.
agree.
We were filming content, obviously, and we had a list of people we wanted to see, and we did a show floor walk, and then we got to the end of it, and I was like, wait a minute. There are 4 names on here. I know they're here. Where are they? And it's just like in all of the madness of everyone kind of moving as a group, I skip past them, and that's you really it's basically 2 days. It's a half day, a full day, a half day. So yeah, 2 days likely isn't enough to really get it figured out. Todd says, Dan, you're giving him too much credit.
No, I don't think so.
Brian Fredrickson talking about somebody with a show. Look at this motley crew. What a way to wake up today. Appreciate you joining us, Brian. We're going to reach out, Brian, because we've got some ideas. We've got some ideas for you.
September.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It'll be here before you know it.
Put it on your calendars, kids.
Shane Catton says Derek's team was strong. Absolutely agree. I saw Derek. Actually, Derek and his dad. We were in that little in the park area. We're just kind of the mix and mingle area. And I told him, I was like, I love watching your company grow just like from afar through. They're really active on LinkedIn, but just watching them they're growing into a new market right now. Just watching them absolutely flood that market. And so if you guys aren't following Rio Grande Fence, you absolutely should be. It's Derek's and his father are up to some really good work.
Speaking of people growing in that, we had the Dan Wheeler at the show this year. That was pretty cool. Him and Bonnie were out there. Talked to Alan quite a bit. Yeah, so you had a whole crew out there this year, buddy.
My parents' first FenceTech.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Nice. What were their thoughts?
Yeah, mind blown. So my mom was like my dad's, like a kid in a candy store with $10 in his pocket is the way she described it. So they, first 40 years next year in business, first FenceTech. This one was the one to be at.
Yeah.
No one left like underwhelmed. Like they were overwhelmed to the furthest extent. So absolutely great time. Yeah.
Very good. We know this fellow. What's up, Matt? How are you, sir? Tracy Henry said, I talked to a lot of people at the AFA booth, first-time attendees, and it gave me the opportunity to tell them about our AFA story and what the American Fence Association does. Absolutely. Very good. Absolutely. The booths were full. Yeah. And that includes AFA booth, that includes the park, and that includes the vendor booth. Everywhere was busy. And I almost wondered there in the beginning, the first day, because we were in the AFA booth. We had a broadcast booth there. And I was like, I wonder if all this is just right here. Like maybe like right here is busy. Like, let's go for a walk. Right. And I was looking around, I was like, it's busy everywhere. Yeah. Like there are people wall to wall.
And you look at the pockets, like Wheeler, like you go around the corner to the Mr. Fence Academy stuff. And they had the reality fence thing and then the Mr. Fence games and all this. And I'm going, I walked over there a couple times and I didn't even hang out there. I was like, oh my God, there is 700 people back in this corner. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't get into. I tried to see Brian at US Aimer, try to get over the Cat 5 gate guy. But they were just busy all the time. And it was packed, man. It was
And then we have some of the vendors like the FSGs nationwide, Master Halco, like a bunch of these vendors were doing these giveaways. Yeah. And I went to the Master Halco one. They were giving some away. I forgot what it was. It was something really cool. I was like, I kind of want that. So we went back over there to get that. And I bet there was so many people in the booth and in the aisles. Yeah. There had to have been 300 people around their booth. I go, this is great marketing. Like, because we're all sitting there like, hey, where are you from? Where are you from? Like no one knew each other. I'm like, I've never seen these people in my life. And then the same thing happened at Nationwide. I went back over there to try to win a PS5 for my son. Yep. And I was like standing in the booth right before they started drawing. Well, I said, I forgot who I was talking to, but I turned around to leave and there's literally like 40 people deep. And I said, oh, I can't leave right now.
Yeah, you're stuck.
I'm stuck.
I was there. They were giving at the Nationwide booth. They were giving away. It was one of their trips. So they gave away a trip to Mexico, and they also gave away a cruise. It was one of those, and it was like I was just trying to get in there to talk about an interview we were going to do, and I was like, yeah, I was guy in the back looking over 50 everyone. People.
Oh.
Like, I'll come back.
It's awesome though. It's so much fun though. So it's a cool thing for the vendors to do, but then also like I said, what I didn't realize, because I hadn't really got to experience that at past FenceTechs. I'd never really done any of those, but there were so many new people that I met in doing, just standing there waiting, like, you know, for 5 minutes. You're like, hey, what's up, man? You're like, everyone's looking at each other's badges. You're like, oh, okay. Oh, you're from, you know, Washington. Oh, that's cool. You know, you know, what do you think about Nashville? You know,
let's talk about that for a second, though, because I've had the thought before at FenceTechs where, like, man, it's nice seeing all the same people. You catch up with it. It's really kind of the one time a year everyone gets to see each other and catch up. But there for a while, I was like, I kind of know everybody, like, and maybe not know them personally, but on site, I see this person at these shows. This was a year where when I looked around, I was like, I don't know, like half of these people, you know, which is phenomenal. I mean, that someone that can go year on year. Like I said, Nathan, you've been going the longest of all of us, and you're still meeting new people at FenceTech.
Yeah. And it was really funny. I told Wheeler this story. Todd from Perfection actually caught me slinking in and out of booths. And, you know, it's kind of hard for us anymore as this stuff continues to grow to hide. But Todd was giving me a hard time because I was sneaking around and no one was around. And he's like, I thought you'd have an entourage. And I'm like, nah, man, like nobody knows. But what I had done was a little pro move. I flipped my badge around. So you could see that I had all this stuff, but you couldn't see my name. But it was really weird. It was comical. We were laughing because there was a bunch of the booths as walk by. They'd be like, do I know that guy? I'm like, oh no. Oh, I think they recognize my big old mug over here or whatever. But what's cool about that is like everyone that watches this stuff and involved in the content that we're putting out there, like I enjoyed just meeting people where they're like, oh, you know, like they knew us, but we don't know them, you know, you're going, oh, that is a weird feeling, you know, when you're talking to someone and they know all these things about, I'm like, I have no idea who you are, but they feel like you're their friend, you know, which is fun. And each of us, really any of the guys that are doing the podcast kind of have that personality and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I thought, Joe, I know you've experienced that for a long time. I just thought that was kind of funny, like, you know, to be able to meet these people that knew all this stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, I have no idea who you are. I'm glad you stopped and said hi.
Yeah.
But there's so many new people or that their gateway in is like the fence industry or the Fence Expert Show and stuff like that. What we're doing right here, you know?
Yeah. Well, I thought, the thing I was thinking about was how great it is to put a face with a name that you see in the chat. Right. Of saying, oh, Tracy. Okay. Yeah, I know Tracy. We met at the AFA booth or whomever, wherever to go, oh, okay. Well, so one was Big Jerry's Fence. They don't call him Big Jerry for nothing. This guy's 6'8", 6'9", if he's anything, just a massive gentleman. He comes up and I look at the name. So it has your name in big bold letters and then the company in smaller letters. I just saw in passing Jerry. I said, they either call you Big Jerry or they call you Tiny. Which one is it? He's like, yeah, I got Big Jerry's Fence. I was like, oh, wait a minute. You're from him. Yeah, we're the ones. We talked about Cary, North Carolina, about the mall, he's like, yeah. Yes. That's awesome. That was a year and a half ago. And he's in the chat a lot, but I've never met him in person. That is a phenomenal feeling.
Yeah. I did the same thing with John from J&M Fencing up in Lincoln, Nebraska. John was standing in front of me and I was like, who is this giant man? And he turns around. I'm like, John. He's like, oh, Nathan. I'm like, oh, we've met for the first time. And then I'm looking at him and I'm a big guy and he's this big, but muscle. And I'm just tapping my belly going, oh my gosh, this guy's he looks like he wants to eat me. Oh yeah. You know, oh, what a stud. But yeah, that's so much fun, you know, and again, Wheeler, that goes back to you talking about all the time, going to these big events, networking, you know, meeting all these people and stuff like that. Dan, I think you're probably the best because you're a little bit younger than us. Your show has been based off that since the beginning when you started it, right? About that connection from fencer to fencer and stuff. So yeah, I'd be interested to see you've gone now a couple FenceTechs. I mean, how has it grown for you, buddy, over time?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's nice to hear guys that are going because they hear it on the show and they're like, you know, I was thinking about it and then they're like, oh my God, they're like my dad, a kid in a candy store. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to, it's not like a home show. It's our show. Like everything about it is Fence. Everyone that's there, every booth that's there, every manufacturer that's there, everything about it 100% is just screams Fence.
Yeah.
And like you guys said, like when you can be standing talking to someone, not knowing, I'm a 3-crew operation, and you're like, yeah, we have 25 crews, looking to my first year, they were like, someone had 75 team members, and they're like, we're going to double this year to 150. I'm like, 150. I'm like, what do you have, a Walmart parking lot? Like, like, then you just start, it's just fun to hear guys talk. Like, our biggest problem is this, which is so small to them. Like our biggest problem is getting, a drainage pond for the parking lot that we got to put in the front acre. You know what I'm saying? It's just wild to see where there's different stages you could be. And I had this conversation with the gentleman now, like, what can you do? What can you have as a fencer? Like, you can have a lot. You can have a lot. Like, you just got to put the effort and to leapfrog some of these stages. If you get to a FenceTech FWA show and you meet some people, make the right connections, I'm telling you, like it's there, it's available. It's just how bad you want it.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think the overarching message here is get to these shows, right? So NAFCA is getting ready to have a free training here in a couple of weeks, here in a few weeks down in Sebring, Florida. We've got FenceTech that we just were at that was incredible. FWA has the Fence show coming up in September in Vegas. You need to be at these shows, right? And maybe not all. If you can't get to all of them, it's a good idea because you see different people at different shows. But pick one, right? And if you're going to none, pick one and go to it. So I had this conversation with a guy here in our market, and they're at least twice our size, 3 times our size. They're a bigger company, right, in our market. And we were talking about it, he's like, I just don't understand it. He goes, why? In today's digital age where I can go on the internet and find everything you're going to see at FenceTech, why do I take a week off? And why do I do this and do that and the other? I was like, well, and his point was networking too. He's like, I'm in the Facebook groups. I talk to the people. It's like, yeah, but the organic aspect of just how things happen and conversations that happen and the introductions that get made, that's why. And the education that you get, that you're not going to find that education anywhere online, because this is industry professionals in our industry giving back and giving all of this education back, and you don't find that anywhere, was kind of the short version of his and I's conversation.
It's good stuff, man.
Hey, real quick, I want to hit on the education. When I mentioned it, I had this thought that I want to talk about real quick. So I've been to other conferences outside of the fencing industry, mostly social media related. One of the problems that they have is the people volunteering to do the education are selling something. Usually in that space, it's usually a course. And so they would give you about this much information just to tease you enough. And then it was, well, guys, I only got an hour. So if you'd like to take the course, I've got a QR code up here. You get a discount, though. They're like, well, I didn't pay all of this money to come here and hear a sales pitch about your course. And I'm not going back, And so, but I say that to say the education at the FenceTech, I got that from none of the ones I sat in on. Hey, let me give you a little taste of information, and then I'm going to try to sell you the rest. It was guys in our industry saying, hey, I'm going to give you all of what I know. I'm going to try to hand off all of my education, all of my experience, and try to help you be better. And I'm not going to ask for $29.99 a month at the end of this thing, which I thought was really nice.
Yeah, I think that goes into the fact, Joe, that so many of these professionals that are coming in understand that we're very blue collar too, right?
Sure.
Like they know that our group inherently is looking for that back end pitch, coming down the pike. So I think that kind of got nipped in the bud many years ago. Sure. And then we only continue to get better. Even some of the vendors that had like technology driven informational things, like they actually had some really quality information and nuggets taken away. I know Donnie went to a couple classes that he was like, he went to one called like how to collect off a job. And of course, I went to him and was like, "Why did you go to that?" I'm like, "Oh, you don't do collections at the office." I'm like, "What are you doing?" But like Donnie had like 3 things he wrote down, and he's like, "Do you know about a bond of reverence or something?" I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I mean, I was mortified. Like, no, I have no idea. What are you talking about? And so, an hour conversation later, I'm like, "What?" I go, "Where did you go?" You know, and he's like, "Man, it's great. You know, I always wondered about how." You know, I'm like, "Okay." But like, how cool is that? It just there's all these different classes and courses and people, and then we've got all these consultants in the business now, right? That come from our background. But like, even going to Tony's class and going to Robert Whitaker's class, and you start seeing like how they're talking through it, and again, we all understand as presenters for this, which I really think it goes back to the group of people volunteering and being asked to share things here, that we're trying to provide something that you haven't heard before in an environment that's very safe, and it's only specific to people in our business. Like, we're not talking about generalities. We are talking about a fence company, a gate company. This is what it is, right? Like, here's our box. Here's all the information we can pour in here. Anything that overflows that comes out of it, it's just icing on the cake. And how you can do that in an hour, right? Yeah. Then it goes back to the quality of the presenters. And you look at some of these guys and you're like, good Lord. I mean, it is incredible the talent that our industry has in it. And now that we're getting to the point where you're getting a lot of these people really giving back and wanting to train and teach the next generation of fencers and gate professionals.
Absolutely. I think that's worth noting is when you look at the educational schedule, you saw vendors on there, right? And maybe for someone who hadn't set in on it, maybe that does look like what it is, right? Like, oh, this is going to be a sales pitch for, to your point, to a software or to a consultancy or whatever. But when you actually sit in on the talk, you're like, oh, no, this was like a full hour of let me try to transfer as much information to you as possible. And then if you got follow-up questions, please connect with me and we'll continue this conversation, not inside of a consulting group, just as a professional to professional. Let me help you.
Go ahead, Dan.
The perfect person to give credit on that is Justin Judy. Like, Justin Judy is at every event, and ArcSight. I've been to dinners where he's taking care of them. But then he'll never talk ArcSight. He'll just talk technology and what it can do. That dude, like, he is part of the fence fam for sure. Like, he's one of us. You know what I'm saying? I know he could never dig a hole, but I'm telling you, that dude is awesome. And what he does for us, I think, is great. And I don't think he gets nearly enough credit, him and ArcSight. Even though he never, literally, I don't think I ever heard him say ArcSight. Like, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, not in his presentations.
No.
Right.
Like, if you know him, you know him. Right. But if you didn't know he was associated with ArcSight, you wouldn't know. Right. And I think, again, that's a testament to the professionals we have in our industry that are giving back to where, in Tony's talk, he probably mentioned the book, but it wasn't a 1-hour explainer on the book. It was, let me give you this information. And, oh, by the way, if you'd like to continue this, I do have a book.
Here's a book. I mean? Yeah. For all the years that I've gone to FenceTech, the quintessential one that started a lot of this that I always remember, there's always a class every year put on by Door King and a couple the other major manufacturers for the gate side. And it's called like telephone entry systems or new age telephone entry systems. They've had to change it over the years because originally the first one I went to, we were talking about POTS lines and all these different things. And they said, peer-to-peer wireless points are coming. And now we're at the point where like it's cellular, it's Wi-Fi, it's Bluetooth. And Ron Miller from Door King has taught this class for 20 years, right? And he is so good at forever. He's always been this way. He is so good at just telling people the facts. Like explaining to them exactly what we have, how it works, how it, all the different things out there in the marketplace. And he never talks about who has what, but he's telling you these things like there's these new cellular technologies and there's one group that does it where they have it's all cloud-based, and this other group has it where it's all native, and he is aware of what's out there, but he shares the information in a way that you're like, you can leave that hour and a half course and understand the opportunity is so much bigger than you knew it was before you walked in there. And then this is the glory of FenceTech and why it's set up the way it is. So here, insider secret here. You do all the education first because it wets your whistle for the ideas of things. So when you get on the exhibit floor, now you're connecting the things that you have learned to practical things in the field that we can each take out to our companies every single day. New products, new technologies, new innovations, whatever that looks like. You've learned about these over a couple days. Now we're going to go put them into practice and find the vendors that can connect us to that.
Bingo. That's a great tie-in. It's the education leads into the actual vendor showcase that is the show floor.
Right.
Absolutely. Chris Steele says, Fence fam. What's up, Chris?
Hi, Stu.
Let's see. Speaking of Tony Thornton, hey guys, I've been attending FenceTech since I was 22 years old, which we're not gonna guess Tony's age.
Well, he's only 40, Joe.
I was just gonna say it's been a few. It's been several. This is absolutely the best. I think FenceTech is what we're going for. Well done, AFA. Absolutely agreed. Noah Devine, what's up, Noah? Hey, what's up, Joe, Nathan, and Dan, as well as Fence fam. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. Back at you. Dan, what's up? Dan says, hello, everybody. Hello, Dan. How are you? Let's see. Well, we still need you to click on the StreamYard, but the bull, or maybe they want this to be anonymous. The bull riding was too. Shaden Catton was there. He knows. I saw a few videos of the bull riding, and it's on my list of next time I'm in Nashville for sure. Dan said, so Dan was there as a vendor, but also podcasting, and he has a company that does installation. So we wore a few hats. Never got to leave my booth to see any of the show. It was crazy. I think that was a shared experience with most all the vendors, and maybe to their disappointment that they didn't get to leave and kind of network with other vendors. But it was, I mean, and you mentioned these big booths, the FSG, the Master Helico, the Ameristar, these big booths that were staffed with tons of people. I was impressed that when I walked by those booths, you didn't see a lot of people standing around, like company representatives standing around. They all typically had 2 or 3 people that they were talking about. Even, and I say Master Helico just because they were right there by the AFA booth. I walked by a lot. They had a ton of presence there, and they were all busy, it seemed like. So, absolutely. Front Rock Fence, what's up, Front Rock Fences? Good morning, Joe, Dan, and Nathan. Good morning. I like the new neon sign in the background. Absolutely. So let's talk about it. So neon sign and guitar. Thank you to AFA for making this possible. Talk about a great partner to partner up with for a show. I just shout out AFA for just really making the show great, but also being great to work with. So we all presented from the media booth in the AFA at one point or another. Guys, I think you'll probably agree it was a great experience behind the scenes on our end as well.
Yeah, I had a blast. It was awesome. That park area was amazing. Like that, dude, it was awesome. It was great.
And it's only going to get better. Right. Like we've got our takeaways from it. We think that there are some really cool ideas that the 4 of us have, that including old Blanc with that little show he does sometimes on Wednesdays. But like, I think there's so much opportunity for what everyone saw us doing there to what could be coming down the pipe. So I'm excited for that, especially for Salt Lake City.
I am so excited for Salt Lake. This was year 1 of us all, being a collection of podcasters, of shows, producing from one booth. I thought we all worked well together, but so we've already had one kind of follow-up, wrap-up meeting, and I left that, I was like, here we go. Like, we have got the next plan up, and it is Guys, I'm telling you, if we execute just on one or two of these ideas, there's a lot of things that are outside of our control, but if we can bring them inside our control and we can make these things happen,
it's gonna be awesome, dude.
I'm so excited. Like,
It's gonna be ridiculous.
Oh, don't want to talk about it because don't want to jinx it, but
exactly.
2025 could be a very good year to be at a Fence show for sure. Brian Fredrickson says, I love taking someone new to FenceTech and seeing them realize how big our industry really is. Sometimes people think we're just a bunch of handymen until they see one of our big fence shows.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. When you walk in, that was my experience. Similar to what you're saying, Nathan, that first time you walk in and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is massive. I don't think you get the scale, you understand the scale of the industry until you see an event. So in all fairness, Brian's not saying it. Brian runs FWA and the Fence show, his show as well. You walk into one of these industry events and just, it hits you that it is so much bigger than what you can imagine. And let's be honest. So these fence shows, while AFA, their FenceTech 24 set records on attendance, it is still a percentage of the whole industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's the part that takes you a minute to sit back and reflect on, is that as big as this is and as packed as this room is with people, the industry's even bigger than this. So,
and you got to remember, just like any event, a lot of people don't know this because, if you've never ran an event or presented something before, but the bigger the participation grows, the more exciting things happen. We saw that directly with what Robert and Chance over at Apex Fence did with the pickets and pitchers last year, compared to the pickets and picks this year. Next year, it's the pickets and peaks. Pre-show party and stuff, but like that whole idea and start to that is showing what happens as more and more people get involved, because the more people the more of you guys and gals that show up to this thing and just engage, the more everything happens, right? Because the vendors see it, there's more people for them to talk to, they find more value, and then what comes with that? More money comes with that. And why that matters is because the sponsorships grow. So you start getting to all these things and these ideas that we have as other professionals. We want to give back to you guys and make these things even more fun, even more engaging. And I'm excited to see, because you see each one of these shows, each one of these gatherings growing. You guys are about to be down in Alexandria, Tennessee, right? For Caleb and Ashley's deal at Expert, and then Staining University, and then you've got other vendors. Ameristar all throughout the year does training classes. You've got Wood Defender doing their monthly training classes. You've got all these vendors and manufacturers reaching out and developing these programs. But then these shows are like the culmination of all these things. And if we continue to grow people, if you're new, you've never been. There could even be things in the future where we have it at FenceTech, like we got Long Beach, California coming up. And maybe that's an opportunity for us to reach out to all of our friends on the other side of the world, down in the Australia and New Zealands. And what if we had all these people, Joe, that watch your show way down there, down under, and they bring a group of 100, 200 people? We got a bunch of Kiwis rolling up in here and stuff. And suddenly it's like, it's a thing, right? Like we can make these things happen and it get fun, because everyone sees that as participation grows, as the money comes behind it, these vendors want to reach out, and it's a family industry, right? Like even when we get these big corporations, it is hard for one of them to come and see what they see and be like, oh, wow. How much should we throw at this thing? How much more can we? Well, what if we throw, a little bit more at it?
What's left in the budget?
Can we get something out of it? Yeah. Can we get something more out of it? And then there's people like us, and even these associations that are like, hey, we got this idea. Like Brian's doing the demo day, and then AFA talking to us about, hey, what if we had this media booth, and what if it looked like this? Well, then we're on the back end going, we have got ideas that are way better than what you've already done. And they're like, okay, well, let's talk about it. And, it's just exciting, man. There's so much opportunity in front of us.
So speaking of Australia, that's where this hat came from. So Blue Dog Fence is some guys that came up from Australia. I had 2 separate conversations, people that did not know each other from Australia. There was a vendor there from Australia talking. They had some really interesting soft close hinges. We took a look at, and then Blue Dog Fence. They said, "Hey, we should do a hat exchange." Yeah. Yes, please. Okay. I've got some here in my bag. You got it. But yeah, so West Coast makes that even more possible, right? Yeah. So the guys from Australia came through California to get here, right?
Right.
So it's going to be one step closer. Also opens it up to a lot of the world that may not have worked out as well for before. I'm super excited to see where this goes. Spring Valley Fence says, great time down there. Our first time attending FenceTech. We'll definitely be going to Salt Lake City next year. I love it. Guys, this is the thing. You go once and you're hooked. You figure out what it is and you understand the value. I think that's the thing. You go to the education seminars, you go to the show floor, you go to the events after hours, whether it's a vendor event or an association event or whatnot, and you understand the value. You're like, how can I not go?
Right.
Like, how much is it going to cost me not to go? Right. In just missed opportunities and missed introductions. It is worthwhile to go no matter where it's at. Benji says, every year I meet new people, and every year I catch up with the others that I do know. Learn every day. Benji was busy.
Yes, he was.
I mean, and I think this is the thing. I think this is the thing for everybody is, once you start going to successive years and your network grows, well, you're all at the same place. So then it's catching up. But then again, it's introductions. Hey, do you know so-and-so? Because so-and-so should know you. And let's make this, introduction, that sort of thing. I think, anyway, I feel like we're beating the drum, but for good reason. For good reason, right? Like that's because we believe in it.
Shop, because you have Benji, your website guy. Yep. Matt with Elite was right there. There's your CRM guy. So it's wild to think that people think there's no value or not enough to attend. Like clearly they're missing something.
Absolutely. Spring Valley says they took the dad down. He was super impressed with how many people were there in the whole event. I hired him this year as their shop manager. Congratulations. It is something very nice about being able to work with family. It is absolutely nice. There you go. Dan DeMan says, great show, guys. Thank you, sir.
Blanc.
Brian says, we have to keep reaching out to new fence contractors. There are tens of thousands of fencers and fence and gate people who don't know about shows and who any of us associations are. Agreed. I forget the number of fencing or people that work in the fencing trade. So they might not even be fencing contractors because we see a lot of bleed over, right? Hardscapes, landscapes that lead into fencing, or lawn care that leads into fencing, or whatever exterior improvement company typically leads into fencing. Tens of thousands is accurate. No matter what number you look at, it is a ton. Which then, when you see $7,000, 7,000 people, while incredibly impressive, when you look at the sea of just contractors, you're like, okay, we've got a whole pool of folks here, to Brian's point, that might not even know it exists. I had a conversation with a lady that we were talking about. She goes, I didn't even know this was an event until I watched your interview with so-and-so. And I said, you mind going right over there to that booth and just letting those good people at AFA know that but that's the reality. There are people that haven't been to one of these shows. Maybe they've heard about it and just not understood the reason to go, or maybe they haven't heard about it at all. These are the events to get to. They really are.
On Wednesday, I was on a call with the Mr. Fence Academy, and there were 2 guys on there, younger companies that knew nothing about FenceTech up until they heard it through social media, podcasts, whatever, YouTube, whatever it was. Two guys, like, and they attended, like they were blown away. And I'm like, how did you not know? Now, but now they're addicted. Now they're like, I'll never miss again. So but it's hard to believe, but there's still like what Brian is saying, there's still companies out there that don't know anything about it. It's wild.
Well, Nathan, I met a couple guys that found it through your podcast. So I'm not sure if you were there or not. So there's a couple gentlemen from, I want to say they were from Broken Arrow, maybe. Somewhere.
Oh, right on.
They're, I mean, right
Yeah.
around you.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about it, and I was like, so how did you guys, I forget how I asked the question, but they're like, oh, well, we listened to Nathan's podcast, and he was talking to, and I forget who you're interviewing, probably Michael or one of the guys from AFA, or maybe Randy. Anyway, talking about the event, they're like, oh, and we just had to come. Like, well, and then I asked, so are you members of the Midwest chapter? Because I haven't seen you at the events, and they're typically in your guys' backyard. Right. And like, no, we didn't know if we were big enough to join the AFA, or we didn't know, we're kind of new, so we didn't know if we needed to be established. Like, oh, sit down, because we're going to have a talk, because there's so many associations you can plug into.
Absolutely.
Regardless of length of time in the industry, regardless of size, irregardless. Anyway, so props to Nathan as well for bringing some people to the show. Let's see. So I want to try to make sure we catch everybody. Craig's point spot on. The networking alone is worth it. Mm-hmm. Agreed. And it happened so talking about Pickets and Picks, it happened all night at Pickets and Picks. It happened just up and down Broadway. It's just running in. Like I said, we popped into this place, Redneck. We had dinner, and then, which was funny. So we had dinner at a place called Eddie V's. It's a fantastic seafood place on the north side of Broadway, or on the far side. Anyway, and some guys came up and they said, "Hey, you're with a fencing convention?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." They said, "Well, we do electro-weld pipe and tube here in Nashville." Really? Well, you should be at the show. They're like, we didn't even know there were fencing shows. Like, well, I feel like we have failed you. So you need to, one, follow the show. 2, get plugged in with these events and in these shows. But the networking is absolutely worth it. Seth says, it's been great so far, guys. Looking forward to more. Absolutely. Brooks, nice and simple. I like to party.
Hey, what a great interview he had with Wheeler the other day. I actually sent Michael a message and told him the same thing. I really appreciated that interview, Wheeler.
Yeah, Brooks, I like what you're up to in the automation space, just trying to make sure everyone has all their information, they have all the opportunities to learn. I think that is what the industry in general needs. Agreed. Brian says, you have to find the new fence people. There's tens of thousands of people who don't know about the shows or associations. We have to keep pushing or it'll get stale and turn into the same people every year. I agree. If we could figure out... and there's no way to do this feasibly, but, when you move into a neighborhood, there's like a welcoming committee, right? That it depends on the neighborhood, I guess, but like 3 or 4 people show up, say, hey, here's a platter of cookies. Also, we're from the HOA. We'd like to introduce ourselves. And do you have a copy of the covenants? Because we happen to have one here for you. And but basically just like hey, here's what you need to know. We've got a pool. Here's when it's open. We've got this. There's da. We need to figure out some sort of welcoming committee for the fencing industry. Like, I don't even know how that would even operate logistically, but that's really what we need, though. And that's what Brian's talking about. We need to find the new contractors to make sure we can get them plugged in as quickly as possible.
And I think that wave is coming, though. I think that as years go by, guys are moving on and out, retirement, right? And that younger wave is coming in, and then they're more tuned into social media, right? I think it's coming. I do. I think we're on the right path. We're in a good spot, I should say.
Absolutely agree. Dan's got a great point. Dan Turbeville says, Nick Reich and the team killed it with the education. Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Oh, the man himself, Michael Reed. Hey. Great conversation, guys. Thank you, Michael. Now, guys, we're getting caught up. I was going to say, I think like these comments are getting fairly old. So if we don't comment right away, just bear with us for sure.
And if you lose me, I bid you adieu in advance. I'm about dead here. So.
Oh no.
Get you a charger, Nathan. Every time you're out,
I didn't know we were going to go an hour and a half.
It's either reception or he's losing. We lose a call, reception, or we're losing.
So stupid.
all the time.
All the time.
Says awesome
Mickey
stuff.
Mouse.
So, absolutely. Thank you, Seth, for sure. Nathan is having too much fun. Completely agree.
Always.
So Seth says, I would love to bring the crew to one of these shows since I've been attending. It's great, right? But to bring everybody, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I think that's what, Dan, I think that's what you're talking about when you're saying, hey, this Sea of Red coming up. Like, that's like so jealous of that. I think that is the dream, right? To be able to say, hey, we're going to close. And now it's a little bit easier for them because it's kind of in their backyard, but we're going to close for X amount of days. All the teams coming. We'll just catch up when we get back. But that is absolutely the dream, Seth. I couldn't agree more. Speaking of somebody from the Midwest AFA, Daniel Brown. Good morning, Joe, Nathan, and Dan. Good morning, Daniel. All right, we got another Nathan on deck just in case phone goes dead. We got alternate view Nathan. But
it.
hey, Daniel, though, don't include Dan in this because he's not in the Midwest chapter. He's in was it Chicagoland? Is that what they call it? I forget.
Greater Chicago or something. Whatever. He should be in the Midwest.
I know. Like, I'm just going to take one foot in Iowa and say, hey.
Oh, man. Jordan says, y'all are going to make me get over my dislike of crowds and make it to Salt Lake. You have
to.
It. I really think you do. And it's not, guys, I don't know how to talk about this right because I think Jordan has a great point. We make it sound crowded.
Right.
I don't know that I ever felt like it was crowded to where I couldn't move. Now, in these giveaway booths, 100%. It was 50 people deep. You were stuck. But I don't know how to describe what FenceTech was. It was busy. There were always people, but I never got the impression that it was crowded or packed to where I couldn't move and go where I wanted to go.
Right. And this facility was a monstrosity. So like it was never like lines of people. It was never like that at all anywhere. So I talked to Jordan about getting there. He's like, oh, it's too many people. And I'm like, no, dude, get there. So I hope he makes it. He's another one that is just an asset to the fence world that would be it would be great to see him there in the network and stuff like that.
Absolutely agree. That's the thing is it's
Did he die?
Alternate view, Nathan. We've got you. But no, Jordan, I hope some of the videos you're going to see. I mean, I know we all produce content while we're there. I hope the content you're going to see in the next coming weeks and months do a good job of illustrating what we're trying to say. That it is busy. It's all the fence fam you could want around you, but it's not overly crowded. I'm not sure how to say this.
You could go and sit down in one of the seats and not be people all over. You could be super comfortable. Take a break and
Yep. And guys, that's what I liked about FenceTech this year was that whole park area there in the middle was full of benches, chairs, couches, places to sit. I've given that feedback before to FenceTech where I was like, there was a corner in the very far side that had chairs, but if I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, I didn't feel like I had a space where I could do that. That wasn't a vendor's booth, that I didn't feel like I was encroaching on their booth to have a side conversation. I think this year really figured that out.
Yeah.
We know this guy. Keith, what's up, Keith Ford? What's up, gents? Dan, no more shots.
Ew, don't want to know that story.
Well, we'll say he's talking about other Dan.
Yeah.
At Mardi Gras last
Dan
night.
Blanc.
That's definitely what he's talking about for sure.
Yeah.
Shane Cat says, great show, boys. Thank you so much, Shane. Ooh. Nathan says, Salt Lake City next year, let's make it big. I mean, we as like a media collective, like our group that produced from the show this year, we've already started talking about next year. And I know AFA has already they probably were having meetings about next year before this year. That's how far out these things are planned. I am incredibly excited, and you should be too. It's going to be huge in so many ways. And we'll tease out more as we flesh out what it's going to look like. But Nolan, you're absolutely right. It's gonna be huge. Michael says the FenceTech experience can be as large or small as you want it to be, but make it to SLC if you want to be inspired. Absolutely agreed. I think that's a good point. It can be as large or small as you want it to be. I think that's right. Because I talked to a few people that made it to the show to see 3 or 4 vendors. Right? They were very specific about what I need to see this person. And actually, the person I was talking to had made appointments to sit and talk with these 3 or 4 people. And they said, okay, I'm going to go to the after hours events, but I feel like I've accomplished my show floor, what I wanted to get done. They sat through a couple education. They saw those 3 people. So they didn't want it to be really big, right? They didn't want, they were in a very dialed in way of attending this show. So Michael, I think that's a fair point. Guys, I would think you would agree. Do you agree? You can make it what you make it. Maybe let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's there, because there's guys that aren't partiers. I'm not a big party drinker. I'm a 9 o'clock, I'm in bed type guy. And yeah, I had fun a couple nights, got to see Brad Jones and Keith. Oh man, that was one and done for me. Right. And then after that, man, like I'm just, on that show floor doing my thing. But I know some guys are there, they go do it. They do date nights at night with their spouse.
Yeah.
Attend nothing else. And then it's, doing their thing on the show floor, like you said, meeting those exact vendors they want to talk to.
Yeah. The guys I think that have been several years, it seems like there's a pretty consistent plan. They said, one, they'll get the list of all the vendors. They'll circle a few. They're like, I know these are the guys, but then they'll go in the first half day. So Wednesday afternoon, and they'll just cruise. All right. And also, so they've circled their 3 or 4 that they have to talk to. They've circled 4 or 5 more. So I go, okay, so tomorrow I have the full day. These are the people I have to hit. And they've circled them. They've got booth numbers so they can go right to them. And then like, hey, anything else is gravy. Any other conversations I have, icing on the cake, any of the after hours is great. I like that approach for sure, of going in there with an intentional plan of what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Nick said, thanks for all you guys do to bring awareness of all that is out there to the masses. It's for me, and I think you guys probably agree, it's what I enjoy doing, is being helpful. Benji said there are pockets of quiet places you can find as well. That's a fair point. Yeah. Is as loud as it could be in some areas, particularly maybe around like the Fence games, that area, there's a lot of commotion going on.
Wherever he is, wherever he is.
But there were absolutely areas where you could step aside and take a phone call. I had several of those come up where just needed to have a conversation with somebody, so I was able to step aside, find a quiet spot, have a conversation. It really is what you want to make it.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to have a big show, if you want to be around masses of people, that is available. But if you want to have maybe a more quiet show, where you can also make it that way, right? Where you meet with 3, 4, 5 vendors, maybe you attend the after hours things, maybe you don't. I would encourage you to, because I think there's just as much value, if not more value, at the after hours networking events than what you find in like the structured events during the day. Mm-hmm. Nathan is just not having any luck at all with this. Roger says, thanks for thinking of doing these things for the non-attendees. I think the seat I try to put myself in is, if I wasn't able to attend, what would I want? What would I want to see? Or who would I want to hear from? That sort of thing.
Yeah, there was, and one quick thing, Joe, this story that keeps sticking in my mind. And it was when I interviewed John McCain, and I was like, why'd you come here? Like what brought you here? And he's like, I'm trying to get a vendor for wood, I think. And I'm like, find that vendor here. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, you already do Postmasters, and now you're trained on staining, because he was with Wood Defender, did that. Cat 5 gate frames, they're all for a lifetime warranty, aluminum. I'm like, dude, you're the only fence company in your market that offers a pre-stained, right, lifetime warranty post, lifetime warranty gate. Tell me another person, right? So him going there and having one conversation, I'm not, trying to say what I said was great, but he just needed some direction, and now he is that guy, and he can portray himself, the only person in the market, and the only person that has this, and this. We stand by our work, and here's your warranty. And it's just going to that. I'm hoping he sees great success in it. But just that alone, if he got that vendor and he linked up with these other vendors and kind of got it straight, man, like that could change his business. Like, cause that could really like, and I know you're in a wood dominant market and pre-stained and postmaster. He could be the, Ozark Fence in Nebraska where he's at. Like he will be that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got to think that's where the networking really takes off, Dan, is you get to meet people that may have ideas different than you've seen or seen implemented in your market. And you can start taking these thought processes and these different procedures and maybe looking at ways that you can integrate them and grow your business however you want, because you got to know what you want to do with your business. But then you'll find when you go to these shows or you go to a chapter event for the AFA or you go to a vendor open house or any of these things out there that you may talk to someone that's not in your market, that's not a direct competitor, right? That just has some things, some nuggets that, having a one-on-one conversation, you can lead like you did, Wheeler, with them, with John going, you could present yourself in this way because we've done this, or I know ABC company in this state has done it this way. And it just creates this precedence of like, man, there are so many different ways to do what we do. And that's fun.
I think part of the fun thing I've found is finding solutions to problems that I can't sort out, or maybe find better ways of doing it. And an example would be a conversation I had there in the AFA booth when we were just kind of chatting, someone else that did some e-commerce stuff. And I was like, man, one problem we're having is blank. And they're like, I just figured that out. So we were having the same thing, or they explained their situation, which was very similar to what we were facing. They're like, here's what I did. This, talk to this person. It should get sorted for you. So that one conversation made the entire thing worth it. Not that there weren't other things, but if that one conversation, if that was the only thing that had happened, we're good. We're good. And it happened in a casual conversation. Oh, you do this? Sweet. I was like, and we kind of went down the conversation path, right? And I was like, man, but this one thing drives me nuts and it's costing us money. It's like, oh, well, we just figured that out. And freely given, we could be considered competitors. We operate in the same space, but he's like, oh, yep, already figured that out. Here's a bunch of, and like I said, freely given advice and not an introduction, but saying, hey, here's who you should talk to figure that out. That is a tremendous amount of the value that goes on here. It's just a sharing of ideas and a safe, comfortable space where you can say, hey, here's a problem I'm having. There's a good chance someone around you has already had that problem and has either figured it out or is on the pathway, or maybe they could say, hey, here's a bunch of stuff that doesn't work. This is all of what I've tried so far. Don't do that. That doesn't work. I think that's a tremendous amount of the value as well. Networking makes a fencer's life so much easier. Mike, could not agree more with that. Facebook user says, I love that you're doing this. All of you are great. Even that other guy, Dan, something. I love all these shows and learn so much. Let's keep moving forward. The show is great. And personally, I can hardly wait till Salt Lake City. Absolutely agreed. Tracy said, I love that those kind of conversations happened and are happening. Yes. And guys, this is part of a conversation we've been having for a while, is that our industry is moving towards a more, I don't want to say transparent, but a more open spot, right? Where, and the example I give is when my granddad would have coffee with other fence guys, right? Either at the lumber shop or there's a cafe down the street where they'd all have coffee or they'd have breakfast, whatever. And they would have these conversations, right? Hey, here's a problem I'm having. Here's this, here's that. Here's a vendor I'm having problems with. Oh, I know you're just not talking to the right person. You need to talk to this person over there. There was a helpfulness, right? And we were in the same market. We were direct competitors, but there was a willingness to help a fellow professional, right? and something happened between my granddad's generation and my dad's generation that it went from open to completely closed. My ideas are my ideas. My secrets are my secrets. How many times have you heard that? I'm not sharing my secrets.
Yeah.
Secrets.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm going with this. And now in our generation, we're talking with each other, and what we're finding is my secrets sound a lot like your guys' secrets of just whatever it is, right? Whether it's whatever, digging through rock, whatever. Hey, I've got this company that they've got a rock auger that was going to blow your socks off. And I show you guys are like, oh yeah, we use them.
Yeah.
Or we use a version of that, or whatever the example is. But I love that we're getting back to a place of wanting to be open and helpful with our fellow professionals, both outside of our market, but also inside of our market as well, in a legal and compliant way, right? Like this wasn't morning coffee setting the price of fence, right? This was just a meeting of the minds of, hey, how can we be better? Who can we deal with better? That sort of thing. At AFA, I met with one of my competitors here in our market. So Mike Robinson, former president AFA, and we just had it. Hey, how's things going? He's building a new shop. So I was like, how's that shop going? He's like, oh, let me tell you about this shop. And about engineers and everything. Like, oh, I can only imagine. But it was a healthy 10, 15, 20-minute conversation. How's the family? How are the kids? How's this? How's that? That had nothing to do with prices. It had nothing to do with, you know what I mean? Like, it was just a good, open conversation with someone that my company competes with on a daily basis. That is where we're headed back to, and I love that so much.
Yes.
Nick says it's not just the education or the new introductions and vendors. It's intangible extras that go beyond anything you thought could happen that generally make the biggest difference. Absolutely agree. What a great way of saying that, Nick. Do you want to do a show? We should have Nick do a show. That was said
Doing by itself.
Right.
Here's our stream platform talk.
Adam Sims says, hey, fellas. Hello, Adam. Aloha Fence. We know these guys. Aloha from Hebert. The show was great. I met Dan's parents at the show and had some fun too. The floor was amazing, as well as the after hours fun. I may or may not have gotten 8 seconds. All right. No, it was the after hours show. We talked about pickets and picks for a few minutes. Talk about an incredible event. I mean, last year's pickets and pitchers was crazy. It was awesome. It was such a great time. And I feel like this is going to be a recurring theme, but I know we had talked about just privately, like, how does this thing get better? Because pickets and picks was being talked about and all that. And it was like, I don't know how they're going to improve on this. And then we showed up. We're like, oh, this is how. Yeah. Oh, okay. This is massive. Yeah, talking about Nick Reich, he was just schooling everybody on bags, just absolutely just destroying everybody. We had Elijah was up there just getting with it on the stage. I mean, it was an incredible time, an absolutely incredible time, which is where we had the wall of guitars. That was very nice, so that we could help give back to an event that we knew was an incredible time, sort of thing. There's so much to talk about here. There's so much value here that whatever the cost associated with going is pales in comparison with, as long as you plug yourself in, right? And let's talk about the flip side of this coin. We're all in the same Facebook groups. We all see the same conversations. And occasionally there's a person that said, hey, you know what? I went and it was the worst experience ever. Nobody would talk to me and everybody was busy. And I didn't get anything out of it. Oh, okay. So you went to educational seminars? You didn't get anything out of those?
Right.
No. This was my first year. I didn't want to go to those. I just want to go to show floor. Oh, okay. So who did you walk up and talk to? Like, who did you try? Were they just rude or? Well, no. You know what? I walked by the booth and everybody just looked really busy, and I stood there for at least 45 seconds and nobody came up to talk to me. And, I didn't do the after hours things because I brought my wife. So we went and did our own thing for a while, and I just didn't get anything out of it. No, I bet you didn't.
Yeah.
I bet that's accurate. I don't doubt you a bit. You get, as with a lot of things in life, you get out of it what you put into it too, or what you're just present for.
And as an employer, sending some of our team there and stuff, I was evaluating that for the first time myself, because I'm looking at that cost side of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I had someone there that wasn't engaging and wasn't doing some of those things as much, someone paying the bill, I'm going to be like, yeah, that person's never going back to FenceTech, right?
Sure.
Like, regardless, if you don't do something in I was talking to a young guy that's new in the business, and he just happened to stop me, or I think I actually said something to him, because he kind of looked like a wallflower at one of Homeland Vinyl had this amazing party up there, and he was kind of wallflowering it a little bit, and I broke away from all the people that I was talking to, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And we talked for a minute, and he's like, "It's not really my jam," and I said, "But here's the thing, you've never been in a bar with 700 fence people. Like, it doesn't matter that you know no one. Like,
Yeah.
everyone here has something in common with you. Like,
Right.
every single person in this building, you could literally walk up to anyone." And I was like, "Do you recognize any of these people?" "Oh, I recognize like 100 of them." "What are you doing standing over here?" Like, I just couldn't even. And of course, I'm an extrovert. Like, I get that, right, guys?
Sure.
But I'm sitting there thinking, like, there's no other opportunity in your life where you can be invited to a party, show up, and everyone has something inherently in common with the work, right?
Yes.
And you could talk to anyone, and we are all the same. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know any of you fencers out there that are like a-hole people that would like not
Right.
talk to someone if they came up to you. I really
Right.
don't. Like,
Yeah.
some of us are a little weird, you start talking,
Yep.
you get the
Yep.
kind of the uptight
Yeah.
of the group. That okay. But I mean,
Sure.
like, if you see one of the three of us, or even Dan Blanc, I mean, like
Yeah.
we wouldn't talk to one of you, right? Like,
Yeah.
so
Well-
I'm like, I just don't get that. Like, and I wanted to throw that out there, because I think
Yeah.
that is a valid now as I've got a growing team, and we're looking at how do we engage the whole group in these fence techs and stuff, and really any event
Yeah.
we send you to.
Yeah.
Where is the true value? And I now know, after talking to this young man, I now know that's something that I want to tell my team, is we need to
Yeah.
be talking about that. Hey, if you're sent out as a representative of the company, you are being paid to engage. If
Yeah.
I find out that you're not engaging, you will not be doing any of this stuff.
That's a
And
fair
you
point.
could hate it, you could do, that's fine. But be aware of that, like, have those conversations, because I think it would be an injustice to many companies if we're sending like our GMs out, or these high level people in our companies, and they're out, like you said, Joe, they're doing their own thing. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not fair to your company.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
you're missing the essence of what our industry can be. And like you said, we're back around to that generation where we're all engaging, we're all talking, we're becoming friends, so to speak. But we can still, I can still kick your butt every day,
Sure.
but I'll be your friend,
Right. Right. We can separate business and personal. We can. Absolutely. We're all grown-ups here. We can do it. And we should all get together like before the next show and do like hey, here's the top 5 questions that can start a conversation. Number 1, you can walk up to any group of fence people and be like, "Listen, I wish I was in your guys' market, because I got to deal with rocks and where I'm from." And that will be an hour.
Yeah.
That will be an hour of, oh, you think so? Well, guess what? I wish I had rocks, because all I've got sand, and that stuff doesn't hold a post for anything. So and then the other guy's like, oh, you think so? Well, this is an hour of just round robin of, oh, you think you got it bad? Let me tell you about how I've got it. And at the end, everyone's going to go, huh. So I guess everybody's dealing with their own version of stuff. Interesting. You can start any conversation with probably 4 or 5 different lead-ins of just icebreakers, I guess, sort of thing. Keith has it right. This is a generational movement that can change the face of our industry. Couldn't agree with that more.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Johnson, what's up, Eric? Appreciate the FenceTech recap, guys. Great stuff. As a distributor, many of our innovative products have come from customers coming through our FenceTech booth and telling us issues they would like for us to help them solve. I think that's a fantastic point. We had a great post-show meeting on Thursday, and I've already started planning for Salt Lake in 25. I love that so much. Eric, I appreciate it. I should have said it. So Eric is with Nationwide Industries, part of the group giving away just like cruises. They gave away a 70-inch flat screen, or 75, a massive flat screen TV. They gave away a grill. They gave all the stuff got given away over there.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Get people at your booth. Like I said, every time I went around those drawings, it was bananas. Awesome. Like, oh man, just bananas. Loved it.
I think they figured out some secret sauce in that of, hey, if you want to pack the booth, this is a great way of doing it. And all of them, you had to be present to win.
Yeah.
Right. So, listen, there's someone from Magnolia Fence that missed the grill. I was over there talking with some people when they were giving away the grill, and it wasn't just Magnolia. There was like 2 or 3 names that got called, weren't present. You had to be present to win, and it's like, oh man, I feel for them because they're going to hear about this.
Mm-hmm.
Nick says, anytime, gentlemen, as to coming on talking, love being a part of the industry is share my passion for it. Love it. Absolutely. Spring Valley Fence says it's only going to grow and improve our companies to help our customers and community with the direction of the industry is going. Healthy competition and networking with competition makes us better and stronger. I think that is very well put. I really do. It's the together we get better mentality, right? Rising tide raises all the ships, et cetera, et cetera. Like if we can all work together, not in a collusive way, but in a collaborative way, everyone wins, including our customers and including our communities. That was very, very well put. Shane Catton says, Homeland Party. Rocked it out with shout out to Hundo. That's a whole side conversation. Seth says, Nathan, it was great meeting Donnie. Great guy. We seem to meet up quite a bit at the show. There you go. Jordan says, just lead with pounding is better than dig set and fade back and watch the show. Yeah.
I thought that's what Joe was going to say too. I was like, pounding's better. I mean, just say that and you'll watch 30 heads turn and go, what'd you say?
Hey, you guys aren't still
set. Let me tell you why I can't pound in my market. All right, nobody cares. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I would say. If you want a trick, I would, even the digging conditions, I would just say, I love to pound posts and then watch like 40 heads turn.
Hey, anybody that does a pre-mixed concrete, they're losers, right?
Yeah.
And they just walk away. That would be funny. It's just you just walk through a crowd, just dropping fire bombs on people.
Yes.
Like, oh, you guys still dig posts? Well, you use like hand hammers too? Like, okay. And just walk off to the next conversation.
Yeah, I walk around and tell everyone, we just dry pack our posts, and they're like, "What did he say?" I'm like, "Yeah, eat it. That's how we roll." You know, I'm like,
we just pack the dirt back in. What are you guys adding?
Most people are mad, like as I say that. I'm like, whatever, okay.
But it's guys. I don't know how much more we can try to explain the massive amount of value you get from attending these shows. I know all 4 of us technically with other Dan. We all produce content while we're there. I can't wait to share it with you guys, to bring you guys in on, try to give you a glimpse into what was there. Because I also understand that it's not in the cards for everybody, right? So timing can be difficult because it might conflict. Some of the folks I talked to, it conflicted with their local home shows. They're like, listen, I've got to make the decision between getting a jump on this year or taking time off and going to the show. One of these things makes me money. One of these things costs me money. It's like, well, does it cost you money? But understood, right? Like, I absolutely understand there are extenuating circumstances. Not everyone can be there at any given year. So I think we're all of the mind is if we can produce enough content to share out with our tribe or the people that view the channels, hopefully we can give you guys a window into what that looks like.
And the other thing is, Joe, you already know next year's dates, right? So
yeah,
you know the FWA shows dates, right? Like,
yep.
I can't, you got 12 months advance. Like, come on, guys, let's get there once.
Yeah.
bucket list, whatever, check it off, whatever you got to do. But once you get there, like we don't need to even convince anyone. Once they're there once, they're golden. Yeah,
exactly. If you go to one show and pour yourself into it, right? Give it an honest shot. Check in with vendors, try to network with other professionals, which is, like we said, incredibly easy to do. Give it an honest shot. I don't think there's any way you could come back home and go, well, that wasn't really worth it. There's no way. It just can't happen. Just knowing what we know about all of what's available at these shows. I mean, if you only went, Nick's here. If you only went for the education,
right,
I think that would pay for the show.
And
if you sat it
with the education, Joe,
yeah.
Alan, my salesman, went to that, and my Halco covered that. So reach out to vendors, see what they'll do for. I think that's something that, especially these younger guys that, look at price tags on that. But there's ways around it. You gotta get creative a little bit, guys. Like, reach out to certain people. Talk to Nathan; he might be able to steer you in the right direction. He's deep in that, right? Randy will help him out. There's ways to get there on the cheap, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. You can find some folks to co-op that expense. Absolutely. All right, guys, let's start landing the plane. We are 2 hours into a 1 hour show.
2 hours.
This is what happens, though, when you get a group of people that are just passionate about what they're speaking about, which I think all of us are of the same mind about shows in general, which is why, we help promote them and that sort of thing. You get someone together, and this is also what happens at the show is you look at your watch and you're like, oh, that was 2 hours. I thought we were going to have a 5-minute conversation. Oh, they're shutting off the lights. They want us to leave now. I guess we've got to go somewhere else. That happened a few times. Show floor is closed. We're like, okay, yeah, we'll be right there. They're like, all right, turn the lights off.
The sun is coming up. I guess we probably should head back, right?
Yeah. Yep. That I hear that happened to a few people. Yeah. Apex Fence, speaking of pickets and picks.
What up, Chance?
What's up, boys? What's up, Chance? Benji says, what up, Apex? Ken says, and as if we could produce enough content, some younger fence guys, I hear that's the one-time family vacation that they schedule every year. And some of the young guys, I hear that is their one-time yearly family vacation. Yeah. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Right.
You get, consult your tax professional as always, but a large portion of the travel expenses could be covered because it is a business. The hotel or Airbnb, whatever, might be able to be covered. Sometimes the meals can be covered. So, and that gets you to an awesome destination. We've been, New Orleans, great place to go. Oklahoma City, great place to go. Nashville, great place. Salt Lake City, Long Beach, California, Orlando, all happen to be great places to take a family as well. So I think that's a great way if you need to take a half step into getting to it. Great. Guess what, fam? We're going to Salt Lake City.
Mm-hmm.
My family never took a vacation to Salt Lake City, and I probably would have enjoyed it. So great opportunity to do that as well. Stay a few extra days, that sort of thing. I think that's when I was talking and watching on social media, it seemed like that's what a lot of guys did because the show runs Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it's actually over half day on Friday to where you could take Friday afternoon, evening, Saturday, Sunday, see the city, do the things, call it, a mini vacay, whatever you want to do. There are ways of making this work. Absolutely. Great point. Here's a guy we all saw there. What's up, Jordan? Great show, guys. Looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Absolutely. Seth says, honing myself to be a better person overall. Thanks to you all again. I like that. Oh, Ken's voice to text was listening to us. Okay. All right. Fair. That's fair. But, well, guys, I think let's all give a last thought. Let's go kind of around the circle. Who's got a last thought? Final thought.
You go ahead. You want me to?
Yeah, you go for it, Dan.
The one time he doesn't talk. Man, we only scratch the surface here, guys. The surface has barely been scratched. So if you missed out, yeah, you missed out. But start now, right?
Yep.
But I remember going to New Orleans first time. Like I just got to start. And then when I pulled that trigger, got out of my comfort zone. I'm an introvert, believe it or not. I'm not that guy. But when I get around fence dudes, I am that guy. It's fun. Man, I can't. Again, we only scratch the surface, and the connections you make, the friends you make. It's real easy to make friends with fellow fencers. That's all I have to say there. So
Absolutely.
I look forward to seeing everybody at Salt Lake City and blowing those doors off.
Yep.
Agreed.
And I think I mentioned it earlier, but I think if you've got to look at the investment that you're making and how can you make that money run as long as you can, right? Whether it's how you're engaging in the education format of it, how you're using these parties and these network opportunities to make yourself a better person, maybe even make yourself more well-known in the community, because that matters. Like there's people out there that are looking to connect with each and every one of you. And you'll never know that if you don't open your mouth and shake a hand or introduce yourself. And I've made some amazing friends over time. Joe and I, we became even better friends, even being down the turnpike from each other.
Yeah.
But at FenceTech and outside of what even our normal meetups and the stuff we were doing with our chapters. So I think there's an opportunity for everyone in that, just that engagement side of it. And then knowing that you're never going to have anything else that these big fence shows have for our industry where you're going to have this collective in one spot, just like Wheeler just said.
Yeah.
One spot, one time. You've got to hone in and take that opportunity. You've got to look at it as it really is an investment. And then, like I said, for your company, for yourself personally, for yourself professionally, engage in that, invest in that. That's where a lot of these things like the certifications and these accreditations and the more and more of these things that are rolling out into the marketplace, all of these things came from people like a Tony Thornton and these boards and stuff over the years that saw we've got something different coming into the market. How can we capitalize on this? And here's our ideas. And this is a snowball. It's only getting bigger. It's only getting better. You're seeing that with FenceTech, doubled the size this year. It will continue to grow. You're going to see that, like I already said, with all the vendor meetups and classes and all these things happening throughout 2024, coming into at the FWA Fence and Security Show in September in Vegas, and then rolling back around into Salt Lake City. So it's like a wave. Like we've got these. You guys have listened to my show. We talk about the 90-day cycles, right? I'm big on every 90 days. You have a reset. Like you're pounding forward 90 days. Get that quarter, get that quarter, get that quarter. Well, here we are at the end of the third quarter of this year. The FWA show's there. Immediately after the next quarter, we got a 90-day sprint to FenceTech and stuff. So be thinking about that. Dan Wheeler said it perfect just a second ago. Make yourself aware of what's out there, get involved, and get ready. Prepare. Don't have it sneak up. You have enough time. Make it happen.
I love it. I love that so much. I think that's worth also thinking about, because there's some guys that say, hey, I can't make it in the winter. We don't have the cash flow coming in, that sort of thing. Fantastic. Good news. There's one in the summer when cash flow is typically better, that sort of thing. I couldn't make it. Some people are talking about that rooms were expensive. Well, okay. So in Vegas, the rooms are, I think, $75 plus fees, I'm sure. But okay, airfare to Vegas, typically fairly cheap because a lot of the properties will, subsidize the airfare and all that. So something for everybody when we're talking about shows, right? When we're talking about just how to get plugged in.
Joe, I don't think I've ever said this on here, but you reminded me, one of my good friends when I was younger, he was talking about a sales class and he wanted me to go, and he could see it on my face. Bro, I didn't have the money. I didn't have the time, right? Like I fundamentally was like, there's no way I can make this happen. And he just stopped dead in his tracks and looked me right in the eye and said, listen, you can have a million reasons not to go.
Yep.
But you only need one reason to go, and then grab onto that and hold on. Because
Mhm.
you can excuse yourself to death, but this is in
Sure.
business too. But remember that, especially with these big events, there's a million reasons why you shouldn't go, couldn't
Sure.
go, can't go. I mean, we can write laundry lists. It's easy. It really is easy. But find that one reason, Joe. That's what you're talking about.
Yep.
Find that one reason to go
Yep.
and get that one thing that's going to take you to the next level. Because you too could be like River City Fence and go from zero to hero in no time. So
I am a hero.
Absolutely. Yeah. What are you calling him a zero for? That wasn't very
I
nice.
know.
That
I
wasn't
actually
very
just said
nice
that
at
looking
all.
at his face to be like, is he going to react to this after 2 hours? And Wheeler's like,
It's
I need
Dan
another
Wheeler, not
energy
Dan
drink.
Blanc. Let's get it right.
Blank. Uh-oh. Okay. So we've got a question. I was just looking up the date. So Jordan Hunt asked, what are the Salt Lake City dates? The event dates are the 24th through the 28th of February. The exhibit dates, the floor dates, are the 26th through the 28th. So plan on getting in there. I mean, I'm planning on getting in there probably the 23rd. That way I can get in, get settled, get ready for the education, and then launch into the show floor. Appreciate it, Mark, for getting this put up here. Learn more about FenceTech 2025 by following this link. So
We have Josh Rand on to talk Salt
Yeah.
Lake City and what to do and where to go.
Yep. Well, and Victor's in that market too as well. Or Mark Olson, Job Nimbus is from Salt Lake. I mean, this is we should have all of them on just to talk about, hey, what to expect in Salt Lake. Because I'll be honest, I was one of the people talking about like, Salt Lake City in February. I don't know. I don't love winter, especially, and it seems like Salt Lake City might invent winter.
Did you go to the last one?
No, so there's that social media marketing world was on the same week, and it was in San Diego. So I was like, San Diego, California, Southern California, or Salt Lake City. I'm going to go to social media marketing world. I'm going to go to Southern California.
Salt Lake City is awesome.
That's what everyone's telling me.
Cool. I mean, the mountains and the downtown area we're at. There's some. They've cleaned it up a lot, and there's so many things to do within a car ride from there. I mean, we went up to my one of my cousins. I told you guys the story. Works in Park City at the High West Distillery, High West whiskey, some top shelf stuff. And what an experience to be able to go over there with some friends and see that. But there are so I had no idea, never been. Absolutely loved it. I came back and told my wife, I was like, Ashley, believe it or not, of all the places, Salt Lake City is a super cool area. I would move there in a heartbeat. And there's a ton of fence. So obviously we see the boys up there slinging it left and right, but so cool, super cool place.
Well, we were sitting talking with some Job Nimbus people, and they were talking about some of the events they're talking about being held just by them and other vendors that are from the area. And we talked about other vendors that aren't even from there, and they were kind of throwing out ideas like, hey, if we did this, experience, would that be something? And so I was like, I can't wait for this. Like if a percentage of these things come to fruition, huge year. It'll be a huge year. Like it was, I don't want to steal thunder and give, but there's some big things out there on the horizon that I think is going to make Salt Lake City a not to miss show. So, absolutely, guys. Let's start wrapping it up. I think the overarching message is if you missed this one, you got to be at the next one. If you're at this one, you already understand that you just put it on your calendar year on year. I start looking forward to as far ahead as I can to the dates. Just start plugging them in my calendar. I'm going to be there. I would be doing, even if we weren't there creating content, I would still be doing that, right? These are not to be missed events. I think you should. I think if you're watching at home, you should as well.
Amen.
Very good. Guys, appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you listening. If you're listening on podcasts, of course, the team tells me if you were to leave a review, that really helps. Or if you were to share this out, subscribe wherever you're watching. Also, check out these other shows. These guys do good stuff too. I listen to their shows. probably more than I listen to my own show, to be honest with you, because I sit through my show. But it's always a good time. I typically listen to podcasts when I'm coming to work and going home. So get plugged in with the industry, stay up to date on what's going on, go from there. For now, I'm Joe Evers, defense expert, and we, the three, well, and Dan Forth, as like the collective, are reminding you that good fences make good neighbors, and we'll see you next